Good evening and welcome to Reel Triad Reviews. And we did finish up the great Tony debate last week. This week we are moving on to more comic book movies and a couple of TV shows. So, how are my guests or my hosts, co-hosts tonight? We've got Black Girl Marvel and Mr. Marvelite to my left. How are you guys doing tonight?
Well, I'm tired. I'm very tired, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I can't lie to you guys.
Doing great. As long as I could get in the frame.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hot here in Oregon right now. It's there you go. Now you're in the frame. Uh, it's hot here in Oregon. I think it's 110, 11 degrees today. Pretty terrible. Not a lot of fun, but I'm still going to wear the beanie. Let's see how this goes. Um, so we got two movies and two TV shows, and we've got two episodes of one TV show and one episode of another. So it's a bit to get through, but we've got two choices from my co-hosts for movies to review, and I picked a TV show tonight. And the first movie that we're going to review is going to be Hancock, starring Will Smith and Charlize Theron and Jason. Oh, I always forget his last name. Thank you. There's so many Jasons in the movie industry. Jason Bateman, that child star that's still acting and doing a great job. Very unique superhero movie. Definitely came out at a time where superhero movies were starting to pick up a little bit of steam. This was right around the time that Iron Man came out, but that the MCU wasn't a thing that we knew of like it is now. So it's an interesting movie to go back to, and I'll have to be honest for myself, I hadn't watched it probably in 7 or 8 years. It had been quite a while, so it was really refreshing to go back with all these superhero movies cataloged and watch this again. So that's my initial take on
You're welcome.
it. Thank you. What do you think, Lala? What was your retake on this? Just your initial take on rewatching Hancock?
That it was actually a very good concept. It just wasn't done as efficiently, I guess, as it could be. It always gave me when I saw it, it always gave me Hawkman, Hawkwoman vibes. Um, because of them being like fated soulmates throughout time, together forever type of thing. Like they always find each other. It gave me that type of feel. I was like, did you guys get this from DC just a little bit? But
possibly.
Rewatching it, if I'll be honest with you, Amazon Prime has the unrated version, so I was watching that one today because I honestly forgot to watch the movie, but I know it because I've seen it multiple times in the past. I was watching the unrated version. Like it makes me sad that this movie is actually a very good film. It commercially, it made a lot at the box office, but critic wise, the critics ate this film up, and I thought it was to me, it started the whole like honest take on superheroes. Because if you look at stuff like The Boys, even Invincible, Hancock to me is like the start of that because he was a loud, brash destroyer of towns, didn't care. He didn't like people, but but it's very similar into that sense, showing like the real like what really happens when you save a person, or what really happens when you destroy like a town type of thing. But I enjoyed it. So yeah.
Tony, what do you got?
I actually thought it was really like ahead of its time. If you really think about it, it came out in 2008, and we were just getting Iron Man. We had Dark Knight, and really, if you think about the movies that they had, I mean, you had the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, you had the X-Men films to kind of go off, and this one kind of jokes about them, kind of like jokes on the tropes, but does it in a more serious manner, even though it's kind of a comedy. Because I mean, Jason Bateman, I can't take him seriously at all in the film, which is the whole point. Yeah, so it was almost like he's the only thing in the film that kind of lightens it up, him and his kid. Because honestly, the film is very serious, and you do get that. I think this is kind of what would have springboarded things like The Boys, you know, and being more serious. I mean, because after Hancock, you then got things like Chronicle, you know, and stuff like that, where it was more of the negative, you know, demeanor, to where we just got a couple years ago, we got Brightburn. But it was interesting because it didn't just go with the normal, superhero origin story. It was very tragic, and you just think he's a jerk throughout the whole film, and he's trying to be better about himself, and then you realize that there's a lot of trauma there, and I thought it was definitely, it didn't settle well with me at first, and I think that's why critics were a little bit harsh on it. I mean, we didn't have the MCU, we didn't have all this other stuff, so they were already looking negatively on superhero films up to Dark Knight and beyond.
I mean, wasn't X-Men 3 right in that era?
Yeah, so you've got Last Stand, which already put a bad taste in people's mouth, and then what is he wearing in this when he finally wears a Superman or a superhero suit? He's wearing black leather,
much like the X-Men.
Yeah, very X-Men like.
They're having PTSD at that point, so yeah.
I thought it was interesting because it's weird because Will Smith always has a wholesome note about him for the most part. He doesn't usually play the villain. He usually will play the good guy or the dead shot who's doing right or wrong for the right reason. So he'll play an anti-villain, maybe an anti-hero, I guess. But he played a character who was literally willing to accost a woman a little bit. Like, even though he didn't do it much, he still, like, that didn't age well. Like, he reached out to try to grab that lady while he was drunk. And I know he was drunk, but I was like, oh, wow, that's maybe in that era, that probably wasn't that big a deal, but now it sits a little differently. That threw me. But other than that, I never liked the ending to this movie, mostly because it felt a little stamped, like they didn't know where to go at a certain point. So they were like, oh, happily ever after, which is fine. It has its place, happily ever after, but I worried that I think they could have made sequels. They could have taken it further. I think that Will Smith could have gotten his superhero movie well before Deadshot, like franchise.
Well, there was supposed to be there were talks of a sequel where they were going to bring in another person that has similar powers to Hancock and Mary, because that's Charlize Theron's character's name. There was talks about that, and then, like, in an interview like last year sometime, Charlize talked about how she wouldn't mind coming back. So I'm assuming they must have had a good time on set, because Will and Charlize have talked about coming back for a sequel if they would ever do it. But it took a while for this movie to get off the ground, because I think somebody wrote a treatment or something in like 99 or 97, something like that. So this movie has been in the works for a long time, and it's not until, it came out in 2008, which means that it's possible that it filmed in like 06, 07-ish, you know what I mean? Right. So it took a while for it to jump from the 90s to the 2000s to even come out. So there's no telling if or never we'll get a Hancock 2, which, I mean, successfully, it's commercially successful. I don't see a reason why it shouldn't have a part 2. I feel like there's a lot of ways you can go, especially if you, for me, the only thing that took me out of this film, honestly, was and it didn't really take me too much out of it, but I would have liked more, because for me, this film seems like two different films put together. So, like, it's like a play in a sense. Like, the first half, you introduce us to him, and somehow he pops back up into this woman's life. And then the second half is us realizing, like, the joke is he's not alone, that this person is actually his wife.
Right.
And they've known each other for, like, thousands of years. And it's a whole backstory of a world that seems very interesting. It's just a segue a little bit. It's very similar to me of another Charlize Theron film that she did for Netflix called The Old Guard. And I believe that's a comic book as well.
I haven't seen that one.
And it's really good. I think you would like it. So in The Old Guard, it's like they are people who live like a long time. It's like they get chosen in a way, and they are immortals until they're just not anymore, or something like that. But it can go for like a long time. But part of the story that they were telling, I didn't really care about the real world aspects. I would have rather them start with, how did these people come to be? How, that type of story. So for me in Hancock, I enjoyed more so their lineage. I would have liked more to see their lineage than you bringing it into the real world and him being like a hero for the people. Like, where did he come from?
Right.
Like, like what are these people, to the point where it's only the two of them now.
I think they've addressed that a little bit. I mean, speculate. They speculate a little bit.
They speculate a little bit about that because I think it's interesting that when they're immortals, but when they come together, they're mortal. Like, so I'm just interested in that.
We've got some people popping up in the chat.
Hi, Cowgirl.
Hello, all. Hello. Thank you for coming by. And I think they just basically went with the idea that they might as well just be Greek gods that came down from Mount Olympus and did their thing. That's what it alluded to, at least to me. Yeah. To touch on what Nobody's Baby is saying there, the gritty superhero movies are going to become the norm because people are going to get sick of the MCU being too clean cut, and it's not clean cut in my view. I think they get gritty in a lot of their philosophy, but they're going to stick with PG-13. I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of MCU Max, if you will. Maybe, but it might go under a different title.
MCU Midnight.
MCU Midnight. That's not a bad title. But for those that don't know, Max would have been the title from Marvel Comics whenever they had like Punisher or other extremely violent characters show up. They would, put an NC, or not an NC-17, but like the comics version of NC-17 rating on the books for those. So maybe we'll get it. It's Miraculous Muncie.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So he says, it was a great concept for the time with the Dark Hero storylines, but he felt the movie wasn't well written, like you said. So it's interesting because if you actually look back on the film, it was written in 1996 and then was stuck in development hell the whole time.
Oh wow!
So it from 96 to 2007. If you consider that, it's probably the best done 90s storyline that you'll see in the movies that was done later on. Because if you really think like especially mid 90s, there wasn't a lot of character development. There wasn't a lot of backstory line with stuff. No. They weren't considering the idea of trilogies or trilogies or quadrilogies or whatever you want to call it, or entire anthologies of the same thing. And so they may have missed out on the opportunity to have a large backstory that they could have delved into differently. They were just trying to make a couple quick bucks.
That's true. You slap Will Smith's name on it, and Charlize at the time was also.
And it was Columbia Pictures, so
right.
Yeah. And this is Columbia Pictures we're talking about. This is a Sony division, so Sony's not known for longevity. It's just how it is.
No, they're not.
They want hit players. They hit you with something and they disappear. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. It's the same studio that gets us things like Pixels.
Now, we can review Pixels another night. So
I love Pixels, but it wasn't.
It's terrible and wonderful. Oh,
it's we have to some video game movies,
right? We'll have to do them. We have to do a couple of movie times where we do movies about video games instead of what we did, which was video game movies.
Right.
So I think we could do that later on. I also know that we've had some fans of the channel that love horror, so we might have to step back into some horror as well. If you guys can handle that. And of course we'll pick and choose. So, it still had more heart than something like Battle for LA. Okay. So Battle for Los Angeles, I thought the preview looked amazing. And then I watched that movie and went, oh, it's a sci-fi ad for the military. That's interesting.
Propaganda.
It was very weird. I was like, this wasn't even good. There was no plot. It just fell apart.
Sorry. The only thing I liked in that entire film was Aaron Eckhart and Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the film was crap.
Right.
I'm sorry. Whenever Michelle Rodriguez gets on something, no matter the quality of the film, she's always excellent to me.
Oh, that's when Lost. So Lost spiked for a little while she was on it, and then it kind of dipped back down again after she left. So that was an interesting moment on Lost. If you ever watched that show, I'm not sure if everybody did.
Never watched it.
Don't do it to yourself. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. The tragedy is not worth it. You'll just get mad.
I already know how to end.
You don't even have to know how it ends. Like it can end any way it wants. You'll still be mad at it.
I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones because I don't know how it ends, but I know everybody is like pissed at how it ends.
Yeah,
right? So that makes me excited. Makes me excited to watch it because I want to see why people are so mad.
Right, I'm right there with you. I also have not seen season 8. I've seen all the way up to season 7, and I stopped for whatever reason. I think it's because we had a kid. Like that's what life did, and I'm not gonna watch that around my baby. So, yeah, I'm in the same boat. So maybe we should watch it and review it ourselves.
I don't know when I go. I'm gonna try.
We're on TV shows now, so we're doing more than movies. All right, so Hancock. I have to say the special effects they aren't holding up maybe like MCU special effects from the same era. So they definitely cut some corners there. I think a little. But that's okay. I think that Will Smith does a great job of playing that brooding character and then bringing himself around to being likable. He can play both sides of that really, really well. It's El Taco.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed him. And I do like that they got the kid to be the like human guy's kid. And so there's no like potential for a super child. So I was happy with that.
No, we don't need super children. But like Will Smith is very good at playing like kind of like down and out, but my luck changes type of men, or like these not so many like one note men. He plays two note very well. Like I might be a dick, but I have reasons. And then he's like, well, I could change it. I could turn it around. Like, he plays those characters very well. So this is like right in his wheelhouse. And so wheelhouse, get it? Okay. Anyway, hey, I got you guys. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. But I'm interested, and I thoroughly enjoyed the film because I didn't think the graphics weren't that bad. Like for 2008, like when he put his feet down in the car to stop the car from going, and he messed up the gravel, or like when he lands and he doesn't land well, like for 2008 for me, because it's Sony. Okay, it's not like Disney had a hand in this or like Marvel Studios had a hand in this. Like because it's Sony, I was watching this on my TV and was like, this. I could tell like when he's flying, I'm like, it's not great, but it's not that bad. Like I was like, I could still enjoy the film and not be taken out of it.
I agree with that. There were some tropes that came along that I thought were really important today. The idea that, and this was presented, of course, in 2008, right before the MCU, almost like laying the groundwork for them and saying, it's okay to do a bunch of superhero movies because presentation is what matters. And so the idea of Iron Man coming along and doing the quote superhero landing, well, the superhero landing shows I'm here to mean business, shows that I'm here to save the day. It's an intro. And I think it's brilliant that this movie describes that in detail and goes into why that's important from the marketing perspective. And so we don't have to understand why Tony does it because, well, Hancock did it.
True.
I don't know. I just like that in the movie. It's not something that a lot of movies address.
Yeah.
No segue.
Well, I also seem to like how in the film it's kind of like he has these powers, and we see a lot of superheroes that like, and when we get into Invincible, you kind of get that story, that idea as well, is he has these powers, but he doesn't always do it right. In fact, most of the time there's more collateral damage, for him doing the right thing than if he would actually, just have left it alone.
Right.
And it's nice to see that, because we always get this idea when we watch these superhero films, they must big thing like Logan in the X-Men film, the first X-Men film, he's a cage brawler, he's done all this fight, we have no backstory for him, and then all of a sudden he's being launched off of the side of the Statue of Liberty, and his claws do this perfect grab on one of the peaks of the headpiece, and he does this full 360 to come back and fight.
One of my least favorite parts of any movie. It's so bad.
No, if I would have been him, I would have literally gone off the side of the statue. That's real life. And like when he like completely messes up the train, or he breaks things, or he like destroys like the blacktop. That stuff is, and even having to be told how to show restraint was actually kind of refreshing to see as well.
So we have a 1 degree of separation celebrity in the chat, apparently. It sounds like Taco got to meet Will Smith, which means that we virtually, through 1 degree of separation, have met Will Smith. All right.
Yeah, which is very
digitally.
Hey, I've only met you guys digitally. It means something, so.
It does mean something. But I mean, through me, you guys have met Michael Rooker.
Nice.
Yep. I've actually met him.
I also got to see him at Comic-Con.
He's so much fun.
Well, you just saw
him twice.
You didn't meet him.
That's fair. I chose to meet Bruce Campbell instead.
Yes.
Oh, I would have, if I had to choose, it's no offense to Michael Rooker, but Bruce Campbell is a Michigander, and I'm a Michigander. I would have met Bruce Campbell. I
That's
love him
right.
to pieces.
That's right. Evil Dead was filmed in your backyard.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I would have definitely met him.
That's neat. We could do a whole episode of the celebrities we want to brag about what we met, but that's okay. I think these days everybody that's into pop culture, they like the idea of meeting some celebs. So Hancock.
Yeah.
The prison scene was dope. I think the guy getting his head shoved up the other guy's ass was a bit of a bridge too far. Mostly because I think they'd be dead, or at least one of them would be dead. And I don't think it's the guy that got his head shoved up that would be dead.
Yeah, let's face it. The Guardians of the Galaxy did that scene better.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but also they had to get it from somewhere. Okay,
that's true.
They had to get it. That's fine.
I don't understand why anybody in that prison would have tried to step up to him. I don't know if I believe that.
I was thinking that rewatching it, I was like, okay, it's a bunch of you, yes, but he's a full-on superhero. You've seen what he can do. Wouldn't everybody just leave him alone?
You'd think there might have been one guy, but he just tossed him in the window.
That's the thing,
right?
Like they knew he still had his abilities, and he messed them up outside of the jail. What would make him think that,
just because I'm in here, like I'm not. But then say that I'm like I have restraint, right? So I go to jail. I'm a superhero or a super being because at the time he's technically not a superhero. I'm just super being, and I have all this ability. And I say, I'm not going to hurt you guys. I'm not going to do anything. But do you think you punching me is going to make a difference? Like, do you think you have any strength to do anything to hurt my body? No.
They thought he wouldn't fight back.
But even if he didn't fight back, like that's my point. Even if I didn't fight back, what are you doing?
You might hurt yourself trying to punch him.
If you remember, though, they really weren't trying to fight him. They were just getting in his face, calling him an a-hole. And of course, that's the one thing he didn't do to Hancock.
They were claiming fire. I felt intent all over them. They were ready to jump him. That's what I felt, at least.
No avail. It's just
maybe the infirmary is cooler than their cell.
These are the guys that his kids try to tackle Jeeps while they're going down the road. I mean, that's
Yeah, no, none of that is an unfair point. I do think that the idea that they thought he wouldn't fight back might make them step up and be like, well, he wouldn't do this to us right here in front of all these guards or whatever.
I don't know.
Maybe the infirmary is cooler than the cell.
Yeah. Hashtag too damn hot. And because I'm pretty sure nobody's baby is out West Coast with me where it is scorching. Man, it's hot out here. All right. So it is two movies. It's kind of like the whodunit, who is this guy story. And then the second half is let's talk about gods and how they integrate with humans. And then poor Jason Bateman. Like that character just gets rolled over. And he's okay in the end. He's like, I'll just take her back. She lied to me about.
But I mean,
I don't know.
But I mean, for me, it's one of those instances where it's like that didn't bother me because, like, if we're talking about people real world ish, how would you feel if like somebody was a superhero that you met and you fell in love with them and they lied about this, but that doesn't mean they lied about everything else. I mean, I feel like stories never are honest. Like even TV shows with superheroes, like somebody's always mad. Like you didn't tell me who you are. Why would I? Like. This thing has hurt me, so to protect not only myself but to protect you, I won't tell you. Yes, bad. Like I'm not saying you should lie to people that you love, but this right thing done for the wrong thing done for the right reason. For me, it's okay sometimes, depending on what it is.
Revenge against the one that wronged you, even if minimal, is still something better than nothing.
That's very true. That is not a pleasant way to go. I'm sure it's state.
Wow. I don't know why that you don't have to censor yourself, Muncie, unless you want to. We'll allow the word ass here. We're PG-13. So I don't know. This movie is bizarre because I want to like it, and then part of me keeps telling me not to like it. It's weird.
I like it. can look past, I guess, what some people would say some are faults, because at the heart of it, it's literally a story about a guy trying to figure out who he is and where he belongs. Like if I had to describe Hancock, it's a superpowered being trying to figure out where he stands in this world. I enjoyed the film, and I feel like if they had that premise and took it the long way, I just felt like they had so many moments that they didn't need in it that just made it longer than it needed to be, even though it was only like an hour and 50, like almost 2 hours, something like that.
Short.
But like it was maybe like an hour and 35 or something like that. It wasn't that long of a film. So
93 minutes.
I don't know. I thought that because by the time we get to the second quote unquote act of the film, it's like now she's superpowered. You know, she's been superpowered. She, wrecks him and does all these things, and he's trying to figure out himself, which, that could have been something that happens along the way. I don't know. It was just, I just feel like there were some beats missing, but overall, I enjoyed it.
Fair. Tony, what about you?
Some Hawkman-esque vibes from the film when they got to the whole, they were basically ancient lovers and, their abilities, whatnot.
Are you just repeating what I'm saying, Tony?
No, I'm mostly I'm not paying attention. But I'm just kidding. No, I did get the Hawkman-esque vibes, and the thing for me was it was a little bit of a twist with them losing their powers. I felt like Will Smith's character was a little bit more tragic than I went into it thinking it was going to be more of a comedy. Mainly because it was Will Smith, Jason Bateman. 2008, Charlize Theron wasn't really on my radar with a lot of stuff. I'd seen her in films, but nothing really like made me start paying attention to her until this film. So I went in with the wrong mindset with the film, and so the first time I watched it, I was actually really disappointed. I was just like, this is like, this is not what I was looking for. You kind of get set up with a mindset of what you want, or you expect something to be, and then sometimes your expectations can let you down. But then when I stopped and I took some time and I went back and watched it again, that's when I actually kind of appreciated it for what it was. I did feel like they missed a lot of opportunities. There was a lot of stuff to kind of expound their history. I mean, even with like the possibility of doing flashbacks to explain like where they came from would have been cool.
Yeah.
But just that quick like verbal explanation of like who they were or whatever from Charlize Theron's character, I was just like, I don't know. I really,
they could have, in her explanation to him about his past, things could have come back to him a little, and they could have done some flashback sequences in those eras you're talking about. That would have been cool.
Or even flashbacks to the other people that died because they stayed together.
Ooh, I like that.
Like, because she mentioned they were not the only ones; they were just the only ones that stayed alive. And so, I mean, that by itself would have been interesting to kind of at least, if she would have taken it to like a graveyard of all of the fallen, or, shown some type of scroll that explained, where they came from.
Sure.
But just having her explanation, I was like, okay, so we're just going to look over the fact that this is supposed to be something ancient, and all we have is a movie ticket and a couple things.
Right. I agree.
But overall, I mean, after getting past the disappointments, I did like the film. I liked it for what it was. It's not one of those movies that I go back and rewatch. I bought the film. It sits on my shelf to collect dust. I think I have it on digital. I think it was one of the few digital downloads I got. And so it's there for me to watch, but I don't go to it until I intend to. And I haven't intended to do it for a while, so.
You're welcome.
We got a great question in the chat here. I think that needs to just be brought up so that we can hear Mr. Marvelite's input. What would you even call a Hancock sequel? Asks Nobody's Baby, and we've got a few answers here. I do like Black Girl Marvel's first answer of Hancock 2 Assholes Unite. I think that's a fair one. The Old Gods, that could be interesting. You could definitely have it be about like some kid who's connected to them somehow and have him explore.
For me, Hancock 2 could be a prequel. It don't have to be a continuation. It should be a prequel.
Do you like what they did with the third Underworld movie?
Yeah, not really. They could have stopped it like Underworld 2. That was They were, to me, Underworld started very good, and then they were like, "Yo, we can make money," and they just kept making these films. It was just like, "Yo," and then you brought a daughter in, which was very clutch. Sorry to segue, but you brought a daughter in that was very clutch, and then did nothing with her. She was the most powerful being, and you did absolutely nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
I still get mad over that. I still get mad.
That's fair. So why don't we rate Hancock and move on to some Kingsman and see what people think of that.
Okay. Real quick, I just want to touch on what Marvel said real quick, and I'll be very, very
sure.
about
And
that.
then how about you go right into your
my rating?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I do want to say that I totally agree that there could have been more from their past. Present. That's funny. I would thoroughly enjoy that. I would have thoroughly enjoyed just also one of the things that really irked me about the film is the fact that she's so angry. Right? She's so angry at him. And he said multiple times, "I'm amnesic. I don't remember." So her anger for me is very unwarranted when he doesn't remember anything. You're slapping me about into buildings and doing all these things. I don't remember why you're mad. I just felt like the direction for her character was very misplaced. But I would have loved if her character was toned down a little bit, if they had more relics from their past or something, but that's neither here nor there. For Hancock, are we doing mine that my 12-year-old self as well?
Of course,
Is that
That's our go-to now.
Her thing, yeah. So 12-year-old me would be like a 10 because I was obsessed with Will Smith. Still kind of am. I'm not gonna put that in past tense, because in something I'm like, I gotta go see it. He pops up on my IG. I'm like, what is he doing? So it's just, I'm obsessed with Will Smith. Grown up me just can just accept things for what they are and accept it for what it is. I'll give it a solid 7. I'll give it a solid 7. I won't revisit it often or at all. This is the first time I've seen it since probably it's out. I'm very with Mr. Marvel on that, where I'm just kind of like, I'm not, I won't. It's not something I would go check out all the time. But if I'm having a lazy Sunday one day, in 2030, who's to say I won't throw in Hancock just for me and the kiddos to watch if I have some. So yeah, solid 7.
All right, I like it.
All right.
I'm gonna give it. I also have been a fan of Will for a while, and it's hit and miss with me. Most of the time, I love his movies, but he has had a couple of stinkers, but I still love them. Somebody mentioned Wild Wild West, which I love the story behind why that movie exists.
That was me.
And then there are movies people hate him in, like Suicide Squad and others, that I just don't see it. I love those films, even though they're terrible. For me, though, this is one of my middle of the road Will Smith movies. It's okay. I'd probably rate it a 6 for me. 12-year-old me, probably an 8. Again, I was probably going to be a big fan at 12 years old of seeing the one dude's head get shoved up the other dude's ass, and the really explosive and the fighting and the robbery scene and all that stuff. I would have just loved all that. So I would have given it a pretty high rating, but I still think that at 8, I would have thought that the love ending was cheesy. So, yeah. Tony, what do you got?
So first a comment to bounce off of what Black Margaret was saying, with the idea of, Charlize Theron's character being so angry, I kind of wondered what the purpose behind that was. And I think it was one of two things. It was either she was angry because he was making her tell him what was going on, or the fact that she didn't want to lose what she had, and she didn't want him to mess that up. And if the truth came out, then that was going to be a problem. And then at the same time, I felt like she was trying to push him away to the point where he say, "Forget you. I don't want anything to do with you," which was in fact what she was trying to do to save him and her at the same time. Because the closer they got, even if they didn't build a relationship, she stayed with her, with Jason Bateman's character, and then they were still around each other. It was going to make them both vulnerable, and that was the last thing that they needed. Especially with the fact that everyone knew that he was over with, he was, engaging with that family. That if she lost her ability to protect her family, then it would put her child at danger and him at danger. So I kind of get it, but I felt they just didn't flesh it out well, which typical 90s writing. So I'll just say that.
Right.
As for my review of it, this film aged well in some ways, and I think in other ways it didn't. Especially like when you're talking about him going for the grab on the woman and stuff like that. But it makes sense because he was basically just a big old a-hole, and everyone was getting it right when they were saying it. So I probably would give this like a 7. It was like a 7 for me. And not a rewatchable 7. For like a 12-year-old me, it's a superhero film, you know. It was very aggressive and angry. I liked that kind of stuff when I was younger, so I probably would have given it a 9 at that point.
Nice. So we can agree that he was a super asshole or a super douchebag, not a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no debate there. This is not like the Tony Stark debate.
Yeah.
I thought he was such a nice guy, the way he handled the guys in the car, and he was talking about how they were all listening to music
and
together
in the jail, he was caring about prostate health and helping them each do self-checks. So
exactly. So he was worried about folks.
He ran away while wounded. He ran away while wounded to allow a family to get back together. I mean, we are talking about a hero here, right?
From start to finish.
From start to finish. Okay, so Hancock in the bag. Moving on to Kingsman. Let me move us over to the poster wall. And these are the movies we are reviewing, movies and TV shows we're reviewing tonight. We've got Hancock, Kingsman, Kingsman Secret Service, Invincible, the animated series, as well as Loki. And Kingsman Secret Service. This is a Mark Millar book turned into a comic book movie. This is common for Mark Millar properties because, well, that's because he's awesome. I don't have a biased opinion at all. This is a unique movie because it's like a new take on James Bond. That's the best way I can put it. And it tries to be new, edgy, and fun, and it's a fun ride.
I mean, it succeeds.
I agree. The question comes, what does Tony think? Because he was the one that suggested this movie.
Marvelous.
Okay, so yes, it's definitely a take on like the Mission Impossible, James Bond, all that fun stuff. I love the film. I love the film from the start of it. I think they opened it well. I love how they used like the soundtracks as cues for certain parts. I think the music went well with the choreography in a lot of the scenes. They definitely went basic when you think about it. You have this young kid Eggsy who had great potential, and his father had saved Galahad's character from the early on in the prelude of the film. And you don't understand necessarily what the promise is until he finally he uses the medal for that favor. And it was just nice how for a movie that was just kind of established, I mean, it's a comic book movie, so there was a lot of stuff to go back from the comics. They even went deeper, and I think every little thing had a meaning, and it made it really nice. This film is I feel has aged well. I think that it had one of the best villains. I love seeing Samuel Jackson play Valentine. I think that it was basically like that great, excessively rich, futuristic type person who's dealing with a real, a very real issue of even today with like climate issues and the environment, and the idea he just goes off the deep end with the idea of culling he's like a Thanos basically. And the way he did, I thought was really interesting, and I loved even like that like that Westboro Baptist Church type test thing. That was fantastic. It played well, and in fact, the actors were great.
Well, you had Academy Award-winning actors in this film.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you have what was it? What's his name? Who played Eggsy? I forget now.
Oh, Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton, like that was his breakout film, and I think he's he was like one of the best parts of the film. Like he was untapped potential, and I mean literally like they used him like really well, and you could tell the cast had fun with the film itself. And it was kind of fun for me because the one guy Merlin, he had just come off of Sherlock Holmes, and so it was hard to like Mark Strong. Yes, because he played that evil character in Sherlock Holmes, and you just fall in love with him in this film, and even further in the second film. So that's my initial take.
I love the line where he's like, "No, you don't speak to me that way. You come over here and you say it in my ear." I love that, and take that very large chip off your shoulder. Mark Strong is one of those actors that when he plays evil, you want him dead, but when he plays good, you're like, dude, this is like my uncle. He's so nice. Like we could go and hang out. This is the nicest guy in the world, and it's so hard because not a lot of actors can have that range. Especially in back-to-back films, like you were saying, it hadn't been that long since he had already played evil, and it's not the only movie he plays evil. He plays evil well in several films, so I agree with you.
Yeah, he was a villain in Shazam as well. Yeah,
right. Then you have, of course, the awesome Michael Caine, who just Michael Caine. I don't have to say anything else. There's not much else to say there, other than all of his performances for the last 20 years are just on par with what we want, and you get him in a movie, I'm happy. Colin Firth, I didn't expect to have action star qualities. I didn't expect that out of him. I expected a stuffy British actor, honestly, for the longest time. I expected to continue to see King's Speech type stuff out of him, which is a phenomenal film, but that's the stuff I expected out of Colin Firth. You see him in Love Actually, you see him in King's Speech and other movies like that, and you're like, okay, this is just another Shakespearean style British actor, right? Yeah. So, but no, he proved it, like especially in that Westboro scene. Like,
obviously, you didn't see Mamma Mia, so yeah.
Okay, I have seen Mamma Mia. I have seen Mamma Mia, not by choice. Pretty dragged through it.
Bridget Jones's Diary, he was kicking butt, and
I don't know about that. My wife only made me watch Mamma Mia, so.
I love that. But I also, again, he grew on me even further. I was like, oh, this guy has more range. Lala, what's your initial take on the film?
Okay, so I didn't know that it was a comic book film when I first saw it.
Nice.
I just didn't know. So I went in basically off of the trailer, seeing that this looked very weird. Also, just to quote Angel, Sam Jackson, enough said. If I see Sam Jackson at something, I'm like, I gotta make my way to the theaters to see this film, to see whatever this film is. But I was thoroughly surprised. I was very happy that we had a new face to lead, because we didn't. If I don't know, some actors I know for like, I'm so proud that they finally made their way to the top. I didn't know who Taron Egerton was, and I do watch British television and all these other things, and I didn't know who this kid was. So he was a breath of fresh air on screen. And to me, that one shot in the church will be iconic for the rest of time. Because it was filmed well, it was tracked well, it was directed well. This film to me was like, it's James Bond for children, essentially, but still kind of not, it's James Bond for people who don't want to go back 50 years, 50, 60 years to catch up on, like,
it's Gen Z James Bond, if you will.
It is. It's like the start of a new. It's like, if they really wanted to, if they really did these films correctly, which I don't think they will, this can have like a James Bond-y type of longevity, but I don't really see that happening. I don't really think they put that much thought into it.
Well, and the comics don't go that far.
But people still branch off, and they can keep some stuff going, because
I think it's a limited series, isn't it?
Surprised that after these films they didn't do more. I really am.
I'm just, it could go more, like, even with outsourced material, you can keep this world that you've created, you can keep these characters in different scenarios, especially since we know that there's different branches now in different places. Like, there's no telling how many Kingsmen there are in these different places. So like, that would have been very cool to bring in new people, different names. That would have been cool. But I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought, I'll be honest, the first time I saw Colin Firth go, what is it? Manners make us men. He locked the door. Yep. I was like, what's about to happen? Like, I wasn't sure. I was like, what's about to happen.
What's he gonna do?
But I listen, and I loved it. For me, everything was just great. This is one of those films for me that everything, like if you had like a chalkboard full of like check marks, like good film, great acting, great choices, like you would check off everything, because the fact that Samuel L. Jackson he had a lisp and he was talking like this the whole time, and he was still like this menacing character that didn't like blood. It was just
I loved the didn't
great
like
to
blood
see.
part.
He didn't like blood, but he would kill people if he needed to, but he didn't like blood. And I can't remember her name. What is her name? Sophia, I believe.
The scissor legs girl.
Yeah, Sophia.
Yes.
I think it's Sophia.
Who ended up being the Mummy and the remake of the Mummy?
No, that's right.
Yes, Sophia Boutella. Like, I enjoyed her character because it was different. Her name was Gazelle. Because come on, she's a model. Like, why wouldn't her name be Gazelle? And also how she ran. But it was just, and the fact that they killed Colin Firth.
Well, the fact that they killed Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Yes.
And the fact that he was in it, I love that he will just do random stuff like that. He'll just show up and be like, yeah, I'll play this like creepy conspiracy theory, like the world's toast. We got to kill everybody, doctor. I loved it.
Okay. And I'll always say this. Mark Hamill is living his best life.
Yes, he is.
Because he's just like, for me, I enjoy that he enjoys people calling him Luke Skywalker. He enjoys people loving him for that role, or loving him for being Joker. Like, literally, Mark Hamill has done a lot, but there's two things in his career that he'll always be known for, and that's Luke Skywalker and being the Joker. And he's never mad at people for it. There's a lot of like celebrities that grow up in the business that are like, I don't want to be like Urkel anymore. I don't want to be, don't call me this. And he's like, I'm loving it. Let's go to conventions. You want me to be a guy in this movie that dies in 2 seconds? Sure. Let's have fun. Like,
he has made him an extremely rich man. There should, if it's like, do you hate getting money? It would be different if like if you think of like some of the actors in Star Wars and stuff, where it was like that was the only thing they did and then they never did anything else. Or they've done other things that were even better than their roles in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then that's all they're known for. I would understand them hating that role, but Mark Hamill makes money out the butt with residuals and everything else.
There's still people, there's still celebrities that make money off of their signature character, but they hate it. And I'm loving that he does not fall into that. I love that he'll play a spoof of himself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I love that he does stuff like that. It makes me enjoy him as an entertainer.
Harrison Ford is the opposite of Mark Hamill.
Yes, he is. I think that's crazy.
It's almost like being around each other. Mark took all the like love for the fans, and Harrison was like, dude, I don't care about that fictional world. I played a character once and it wasn't even my favorite movie. There is a thing you guys should watch where he does a whole thing on Vanity Fair where he gives his entire career, and the movies that Harrison Ford highlights that were the best for his career will blow your mind.
Which they probably weren't. They were personally good for him, but I doubt that they like helped his career. If anything, him being
some of them did, but yeah, I know what you mean. They didn't help him blockbuster wise, but one of them was Witness. Yeah. He mentioned Witness, and then he mentioned the Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games movies as big ones, and then there was a couple others, but they weren't the ones that you would expect. And you could tell he's a much more artsy actor than you expect from him, knowing what his roles are. So that's
I really liked him in The Fugitive.
Yeah. It's a good movie. Well, all of his movies are good. Well, we got totally an aside because of Mark Hamill.
No, but first of all, let's just talk about that opening scene. I mean, if you didn't know anything going into the Kingsman, and I kind of went in pure, I knew it was a comic book film, but I didn't go back and read any of the comic books or anything like that. But you had that one scene where Lancelot is tracking, Mark Hamill's character, and he goes in, and that scene with him fighting all of those guys was fantastic. And then you have Gazelle come in. I think it was Giselle or Gazelle. Yeah, Giselle. And she just slices him in half with her legs. And you're like, okay, this is gonna be like funny and extremely visceral. and I'm ready for this. Like, I want anything that's going to happen. Like, heads blowing up, let's do it. You know,
I think
it's
you
like
just knew immediately that it was going to be something different than you've seen before. Like you
exactly.
just like, I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm here for it now. Like if you were like this in the movies, you were like, all right, let's get to this movie. Let's see what's going on. And that scene, and then that part happened. You set up like, oh,
Right. That's
okay.
what I did. I
All
set
right.
up.
And you see his whole you get a glimpse of the arsenal of all of the weapons that the Kingsmen have at their disposal, and you're like, okay, there's no way we're gonna get through all of this. And then at the end, you're seeing every single thing being used. It was just beautiful.
And that's just every single thing they picked up, because there was still stuff back at the tailor shop that we never even got to get into, which was nice. So that left room for other sequels, so they say. Which I don't think we'll get a third. I don't see it happening. That'd be like getting Hit Girl the movie, or Kick-Ass movie, Kick-Ass 3. I don't think we'll get that either.
Yeah, Golden Circle kind of like, I think, dropped the excitement down. So
we're getting the third. We're getting the third Kingsman.
We are?
Oh, we are getting the Kingsman. We're getting the prequel.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
it's still technically a third.
No Taron Egerton.
Colin Galahad. No, it's gonna be just.
But yeah, but that was my thing. I was like, y'all gonna create a whole prequel and Taron isn't in it. I was like, he was the draw. And to me, what made the second one not good for me is his relationship with the princess or whatever. I thoroughly did not know that she was going to be in the second one. I was like, would have preferred him single and just living. Like,
yeah, no, he was just supposed to have fun and diddle around and.
Exactly.
And he toils around with princesses. That's what he does.
Like, this is weird. I was like, him having a relationship, like that wasn't the draw.
No, but
I was like,
it makes sense. His dad wasn't around. He would want to have a relation. Like, there's reasons to make sense out of it, but yeah, I'm with you. People want to make a legacy for themselves, but sometimes they do not want to. They do not get to pick what legacy they get to be remembered by, and that's why they don't like it. Well said, Muncie. I agree, and it is hard to define your own legacy. Because you aren't the one that gets to define it. You can do everything you can to set an example for yourself, but your legacy is what other people see you as, which is bizarre. But again, well said. The special effects in this movie still hold up. I love the way they, of course, ended it with the extreme violence being cartoonized. I think that was a really good way to keep the NC-17 rating off the film. I think otherwise they would have hit that NC-17 bar pretty quickly. With that many decapitations, I don't think that the MPA gets happy. What did Angel say? Sorry, I was looking at what Angel said. I stopped. I apologize. I'm a bit sad I left when I did, because I found out about Margot Robbie beforehand. Wait, you left where? I knew you had fries with Mark, but you were going to meet Margot Robbie too? Man, we gotta go meet Angel.
Wherever Angel was, like, it must be like a celebrity hotspot.
No kidding. Like, where are you having lunch? What Burger Shack? Let's go.
Angel left before.
But you left before Margot Robbie got there. I so would have gotten out of my way to meet her. I agree. Margot Robbie is amazing. Probably one of my favorite modern actresses.
Yeah.
I feel like she has, for me personally, so just want to segue a little bit to Margot Robbie. I don't know. I need her to do something very different from what I've seen her do. I don't know. And I don't know what it is, but I'll know it when I see it. I feel like she is a higher class version of Jennifer Lawrence. Because it's like,
is who in what?
Hustle.
American Hustle.
American Hustle, yeah.
Margot Robbie did I, Tonya. Did you see that, where she plays Tonya Harding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought she did pretty good in that.
To me, that still gave me Harley Quinn vibes.
Okay.
Because she was spazzy and makeup all over her face and screaming and doing stuff like that. So it still gave me like I said, I don't think she's bad in anything that she's done. I think she's always shown up, known the excitement, and she's hit those beats. But I feel like she's one of those actresses that Hollywood wants to be famous, so they made her famous. Right? And I want to see her like maybe stripped down in a role that she's not producing, but she's not kind of like behind. Even if she is producing, somebody else is taking the helm and leading, and I just want her to be a little more stripped down because right now I just feel like I said I think she's just a higher class Jennifer Lawrence. Like,
well, Jennifer Lawrence won an Academy Award. That's not too terrible. And got to meet Jack Nicholson. I don't know if you guys ever seen that video.
I have.
Oh my goodness.
But again, like I'm saying, like for me, Jennifer Lawrence is one of those people that I think Hollywood wanted to be famous, so they made her famous.
There are a lot of Australian women who actually are becoming more famous now. And there's another girl. She's the one that was in The Babysitter, and she's in is it Ready or Not? I think she plays the lead.
Yeah, she also did Mayhem.
Yes, she and Margot Robbie could play sisters in a movie. They're both Australians. They're both blonde, and they both look and act very similarly. And I think it'd be great to see them. But I see what you're saying. They're bringing over some carbon copies in a sense.
Yeah, because it's like they were like for a while it was like the Julia Roberts effect, right?
Right.
Everybody was bringing over like, these redheads that were like cute, like beautiful in an unconventional way, and then it switched to like blondes, and then it was like Jennifer Lawrence was like the it girl. So now you're starting to create like all these like Jennifer Lawrence because essentially Emma Stone took Julia Roberts' place, the redhead that's like quirky and can be funny and sexy and all this kind of stuff.
But Emma Stone's way better than Julia Roberts, so.
Yeah, Samara Weaving was the character or the actress.
Yeah, they look like bookends. Samara Weaving and Margot Robbie look like bookends to me. Mm-hmm. So
no, and much like Gyllenhaal and Tobey Maguire played brothers and brothers, these two should play sisters in a movie called Sisters.
Yeah, but they look like they could be like real sisters. The fact that you telling me that Gyllenhaal and Maguire are brothers, I was like, all right, they got different daddies. I'm assuming those.
They look close enough. They look close enough. I bought it. So Kingsman, it's one of those movies that's hard to review because when a movie is too good, we could talk about the beats, we could talk about the cinematography, which was pretty fantastic, and we could talk about the choreography, which was absolutely probably some of the trickiest to get down, especially the church scene, or even the bar scenes. Both bar scenes that had to be a little tricky, but it's hard to. There's not much to ding this movie on. Maybe being too cliche in some of its parts. Some of those rich boy roles, although it feels like they needed to have those roles, the Richie Rich Kid versus...
I think it was intentional, too. I think
Eggy.
It was a trope on itself as much as it was on James Bond films.
Right. And that's the thing. That's Mark Millar's books, as you know, Tony, do that. They already do their tongue-in-cheek against comic books, and he understands what who he's writing for. He's writing for comic fans that have been reading comics for their whole lives, and they know how The Dark Knight Returns goes, and they're cynical about it. So they'd like to see something different. So I think that these movies, especially, like you were saying, Brightburn and these types of movies, are a backlash to that cynicism about superheroes. But I think we need both.
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
You point out his flaws. That's what Angel said.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Man, it is getting really, really warm. Is it possible for us to take a couple of minute break?
Sure.
I'm genuinely overheated and I need to get some real water for a minute and take some time in front of the AC. We will take a 3-minute hiatus. And I'll just put us on our be right back, and we will be right back.
You know what we've done? You know what we've done, gang? We've defied all the laws of nature. That's it.
we're back. Thank you for letting us take a break, guys. We're going to review Kingsman, and we're going to see what everybody thinks. I have a sneaking suspicion how this is going to rate across the board here. I know how you guys rate at this point, so I know that we're not going to hear 10 from Marvel or Black Girl Marvel because she'll probably go 9. She'll probably say 9 as well as a kid. And then I think Tony's going to 10-10 this film. And I'm going to agree with a 10-10 on that. I'll just ante up with a 10-10 on that as well. Am I hitting the mark on this one?
You're close. I'm 9.5 as an adult.
Okay. Hard 9, Taco says.
Probably a 10 as a child. Probably a 10 as a child.
And I know the kid you likes to go to 10s because it's like 10. Oh, 10.
The kid me is like nuts. Like, what?
Right. Watch it. Tony, 10-10, am I right?
Absolutely. I if I'm ever like my go-to movie whenever I'm like really feeling down, I just want to watch something and do something in the background, is always A Knight's Tale. And then after A Knight's Tale, it's 100% Kingsman. It's one of those movies where I've watched enough to where the lines will instill an idea in my head of what's going on. So even if I'm not like directly watching it, I know what's going on in the film, and I watched it for this review. I'm probably going to get off and watch it again. It's just,
it's a good film.
It's been rekindled. Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen it a lot of times, I'll admit. And so, I mean, a lot of times I've seen it. I'll say a dozen times probably. And that's a lot for a movie. Muncie's going to give it an 8.5 and a 10 if he was a kid. An 8.5. That's we'll have to discuss with Muncie. Well, that's a kind of a low rating.
Muncie, can you please write a huge paragraph for 5? That's why.
Why does it get that?
You give Kingsman 0.5.
Where's that 0.5 getting lost at? A solid 11. Angel turns it up to 11 for A Knight's Tale.
Yes, I love A Knight's Tale. Classic Paul Bettany.
I love everything about A Knight's Tale, except I have to say there's one part of the film that bothers me, and that it's he yells his own name, and that bugs me every time. It's a little weird. Till it'd be like Mr. Snedbits, I don't know. Hey, Brosiah, welcome with the raid. Thanks, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
I get why he did it, though. I get why he did it.
I know. I get it too.
Because he wanted his peasant now turned knight's name to be yelled as this guy was defeated, and so.
I know. It just
I wasn't afraid of his name anymore.
I get it. I do get it.
It would have been worse if he yelled,
I know.
Liechtenstein!
Okay, so
Angel, you have lived a life. Jeez.
I think we need to see the biography or the autobiography of Angel El Taco. Brosiah, sir, welcome in. Yeah. And welcome. We are in the middle here.
Are you on IMDb?
I'm going to switch over to the poster wall for Brosiah. We are reviewing these films and television shows tonight: Hancock, Kingsman, The Secret Service, Invincible, the animated series by Robert Kirkman, and Loki. So those are our big ones tonight. And we're moving right into Invincible now. I already said 10-10, so I don't really need to go further. Why don't we move right into it? Has anybody read Invincible before?
No, but I want to, though.
Bits and pieces, but I didn't get enough into it. It was just jumping into from the cartoon.
Fair enough. So don't worry, Brosiah. We're not going to get into Loki episode 3 until the very end of the show. So we'll do like 15 minutes per episode that we're doing, because we're only covering Invincible episode 1. Since they're 40 minutes, they're long enough to talk about. And we will say spoilers. That's right. I am struggling with my voice today. I apologize.
It's okay. We're your voice as well. So you got co-host.
That's true. So only 1/3 of my voice is down right now. So exactly. I like it. So Invincible, another different take on superheroes. Kind of a strange Everything in it seems familiar. You feel like you're in a Superman style, DC style universe without a doubt. But things are not as they seem because, well, they're not. What do you guys feel about just that very first episode? I know it's hard to parse out all the episodes if you haven't watched them recently. But
so are we only talking the first episode, or are we talking the series?
I think we should just talk first episode and maybe cover it a bit more in the weeks to follow, just as a little filler. That way we can cover it, unless you really want to tackle the whole series. But that's.
I just want to know what we're doing. I like to know the plan.
Just making sure. I want to also do what you guys think is fun and want to do. So.
Episode. That ending. Okay, first I'll be honest. First episode, I was kind of like, don't know if I'm gonna stick with this show. I like animation in all its forms. It could be dark animation. It could be light and fluffy. It could be, I'm just an animated person. I've always been that type of person. But then I was like, that ending, I was like, oh, I have to watch this. I said, oh, okay. I have to watch this, because the way that it ended, I was like, what in the world? It was just good cinematic watching, man, how it ended. And I don't want to throw out spoilers for anybody. Nobody's seen it, so I'll talk in like innuendos or whatever. But I think it's drawn beautifully or animated beautifully, and I think the voice cast, everybody's top tier. Especially Omni Man. You don't get any better than J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is the best. So yeah.
How about you, Tony? What's your take on Invincible?
I definitely liked J.K. Simmons as the father, as the Viltrumite. For whatever reason, I can't remember his superhero name. It was
Omega Man.
Yes, Omega Man. So you have this okay. I went into it kind of virgin, so I wasn't like all prepared for any of the storyline or whatnot. So I say this, the first thing I'm like, oh great, this is another like, sky high type thing where the kid, doesn't have powers and then has powers, and then you have, the dad pulverizing the entire, Justice League of this storyline. And there's every character has like some possibility of either being good or bad. And I learned very quickly on that even the ones that I thought were good guys could easily be the bad guy. And Robot was actually the surprise for me in the cartoon. Like, I did not like him from the beginning, and I was ready for him to be this evil.
But Robot is he's played by wow, why did my brain forget who he is? There's so many good people.
And let's not forget that Steven Yeun was or Glenn from The Walking Dead, or the guy from the movie Mayhem that was with Samara. He's the voice for Grayson.
For Invincible. Agreed. And then the girl that plays Britta from Community is actually the girl.
The girl. She plays Eve.
Eve, thank you. As far as Robot is played by the guy that plays Sylar. He's also Spock. I always forget his name every time.
Zachary Quinto.
Quinto. That's right. Quinto plays Robot, and he's fantastic. So
he's really had superhero range from being Spock to being a robot. I'm just saying.
I agree. It's the same, but he played Sylar as well, and Sylar had a lot of emotion.
Sure, near the end, maybe.
I mean, but this show has a lot of actors that people should know, like the Zazie Beetz plays Amber. She was Domino on Deadpool.
Right.
Sandra Oh, Mother.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill's in it.
She does.
Again,
Mark Hamill.
You can't have anything without him. Seth Rogen is Alan the alien.
Right.
And Michael Richardson is smaller twins, which the moment they opened their mouths, I was like, that's my guy.
Oh, and those twins are probably my favorite characters in the series. I enjoy I'm loving those guys. Google lied to you. I get it, Brosiah. Google lies to me all the time. It is an all-star cast, and I tried to get my wife, I tried to get Bats to watch it, and she She can't handle the animation style because it's, even though it's like DC style, she said they're too still for too long. And I think that's because they're trying to get to the big action, so everything's staying still a little more often makes that big action pop a little harder. That's just my take on it. But I don't know. I'm a big Kirkman person. I'm a big comic book person. I love DC animated universe. So for me, this was like a no-brainer. It was like overly violent DC universe. All right, I'm in. And he's a good storyteller, Kirkman, although they pieced it up and changed it a bit like they do.
Which is, listen, my whole thing is I like stuff like that, right? Like, I get that you have source material, but it's called source material for a reason, right? Like, I want to be able to go to the comic and read it and be like, oh, okay, this is where they pulled that from, but they did it a little different. Like, I want to have two separate experiences when I enjoy things. Like, now I'm not saying you should take an idea that somebody created and butcher it, like many things have been done across the world, across time.
Batman and Robin.
It, all the Batmans up until Christian Bale's, but just saying, but I think I enjoy, like, that's why I like the MCU so much, is because I can still go and watch. I mean, I can still go read the comics and still be thoroughly entertained, and not read something that's play by play, what the source material is. So that's what I liked.
And they did the same thing with The Walking Dead with Kirkman. So it was obvious they were going to do that with Invincible, because with Walking Dead, they were like, no, we're not going to do what you did in the comics, because we don't want the readers to know. We don't want people to do exactly what they're doing with the MCU right now, which is going out and piecing things together and going, this is what will happen next. It prevents spoilers. It prevents it being ruined for everyone, because some jackass is going to do it. Because there's a ghost in, the end of WandaVision now.
My gosh. No, it's Mephisto. No, it's Doctor Strange. No.
It's but it's supposed to be Vision, I heard. Like, come on, y'all.
No, it's supposed to be Doctor Strange. That's what they said.
I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Doctor Strange is credited at the end of the credits for the sound.
I know. Like, and even if they did, I mean, who cares?
But you know what I would prefer? If you didn't touch anything at all, and then when the multiverse movie came out, maybe you just put a reference in there, or you digitally add to that. Like, you don't need to add to something that we've already seen. It's been a month and some change. Let it go.
Right.
Yeah. And I just want to say this right now, because of this whole thing with WandaVision. The reason why Doctor Strange's music is credited at the end of the last episode is because when you see her in her astral projection, if you listen to the music, it's actually off an octave, I think it is, but it's playing Doctor Strange's music for that scene. It just doesn't sound like it because it's been manipulated. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Everything else is cap. We're just going to go with that, and I'm done.
That's fair.
This was the beginning of your MCU cap or not? I love it.
Yeah, the video will be coming out soon on TikTok.
I want to see it. I'm excited. And again, if you have not followed Black Girl Marvel or Mr. Marvelite or myself on TikTok, please do. We're also on every other social media you could probably think of, because, well, that's who we are. Anyway. And if you don't do TikTok and you're one of those people that's like, but TikTok, I'm like, yeah, you got to come over to TikTok. I'm sorry. It's just it's amazing.
TikTok on the clock, the party never stops. I'm just saying.
It's fun. We're going to also be doing lives over there. So if you like this content, you'll get even rawer content over there, because over there we'll just be sitting back and bullshitting. And yeah.
That's pretty much all we've been doing lately between the two of us.
A faithful movie to the comic book movie Killing Joke, Red Sun. Faithful movies would be nice. A Killing Joke did not get done right. I'm very upset about that. We could do a whole series on just DC animated movies. That's a lot of movies.
Probably will one day, but just we got to build up to that. So that's part of the track.
We'll get there. We'll get there. That's a like a 3-month stint, and we're not there yet. This first episode, though, I do understand everybody's apprehension, because it does feel like it's raw, just character introduction. Like, here's this character, here's that character. He works at the burger joint. There's not a ton to go on other than that final scene. And if somebody hasn't seen the show, it's a weird show, because every episode has a bit of a spoiler at the end, a lot like modern television does. So it's hard for me to, again, like Lala said, I don't want to just pounce on the end of this episode. I guess I could throw up the spoiler alert, and we could talk about it. Look at that. Yeah. It's up. So if you haven't seen the show Invincible, you should mute us at this point. So
Yes.
when he started fighting them, did you guys feel like they were the bad guy at first? Like, there's no way that J. Jonah Jameson's going to play the bad guy. Something's wrong with these other superheroes, because that's what I thought.
No, well, they had me fooled. I thought he was a good man. So I was like, they must be dirty. I thought that they were dirty. I was like, they must be. But then after a while, I was like, it was a trap. So yeah, they had me fooled for a second. But.
Were you fooled, Tony, but like we were?
So I was completely in shock at it. I mean, early on, like you don't consider yourself as invested when you're just starting to watch this, and I was completely shocked. And I think the thing that kind of let me on that he was probably the bad guy initially was there was no talking. It was just he went for them, and you know, the basic superhero etiquette is you at least say I caught you. You know, it's like he just it was so visceral, like him going at them and how he destroyed them, and you could see that it wasn't them like, oh, he's the bad guy, let's kill him. They were pulling their punches until they realized he wasn't letting up on them. And you know, if you're the bad guy, you're gonna just try to kill whoever may know your secret. And when you realize, and I mean, they're like, you were our friend, you know, why are you doing this? And when they were shocked at the death of, you know, one of their own, you're like, okay, this is something messed up. And I immediately thought mind control, you know, It really wasn't him. Somebody was posing as him.
Yep. That's where we all went, which was good.
So I didn't think it was him at first. I thought it was, you know, another, you know, superpowered being that was posing as him to destroy his reputation.
Right.
And then you find him in the hospital with his wife and stuff, and you're like, oh, wait a second. So
can we talk about the Justice League? I mean, I know that's not what they're called, but can we talk about how Kirkman perfectly replicated them, but also made fun of them? I loved the fish guy. Like, he was just a freaking fish. Like, they just didn't even care in this one. They're like, he's a fish.
The one that was the Batman one.
Yes.
It was just, he was so bad but so good at the same time for me. I was like, this is downright hilarious. Yeah.
I love that he had a surfboard, so he was almost like it wasn't a surfboard, it was like it was a Static Shock kind of feel, but also totally Batman. And when the thing starts crushing him, you're like, oh, he could die. This guy could die. Not like not like the guy with the big red suit that looked like Hercules on steroids. That was Superman essentially.
It survives.
Right. But they did a really good job. And I think we'll talk about The Voice eventually too, but they do a good job there as well, mocking the same characters. So Joker. Oh, and you subscribed. Joker! Thank you so much. That is so amazing, sir. 4 months. That is brilliant. Thank you so much, sir. That's amazing. I can't believe we've been doing this show 4 months. Or I've been doing this show 4 months. We've got 4 weeks with the three of us, by the way. So we're at our month anniversary. Of the official triad.
Happy anniversary.
So let's keep this going.
I need to say this, Muncie, just this. Like, I love to hate Amber, but she is just so inconsiderate, selfish, and she tries to use terrible logic to make herself look like she has been wronged. I 100% agree.
Now, Lala and I met because we have some fundamental disagreements about pop culture, which I think is great. And so I understand why people would be annoyed with Amber, but at the same time, she's basically like, "Yo, dude, this is my time, and you're borrowing it. So let's do this." So that's just me. But I will go watch those videos or that video because I don't think I caught that one, Lala.
Like, I understand. Like, I understand where she's coming from as a woman. You don't want your time to be wasted. You want to know where you stand with the person. You want to know if this is something that they want to be in. I was with her. I understood everything that she was saying up until the point. Spoiler alert. I'm gonna say spoiler alert.
Let me get it up there. Go ahead.
So up until the point where she goes, "Yeah, I know you're invincible." Anything after she said that, anything she had said previously to me is a wash. Because if you know that I'm out here, that every time you needed something to be done, or every time you needed me to be there, or something was going on, and like the place was going, like people were dying and something was happening, and I was out there fighting, and you knew,
Yeah.
and you would still be mad. Like I gotta tell you, I was there. I was there with her, but she lost all credibility when she knew who he was. I was like, come on, so why are you mad?
Yeah,
So,
because
like-
you realize at that point what she's doing is she's basically known this whole time, but she's been guilting him, causing him to have something that is allowing him to be distracted while he's in life and death situations. And I get that she would be upset that he never told her the truth, but it's like, oh, you have all these superpowers, and I would rather you have just spent time with me, and you didn't, instead of going off and saving the world. And it's
right. It's like she's making
she lost the argument.
Her in the world. She's making choose like, either you have dinner with my parents, or you stop people from dying. Which one is it? Because there's only one right answer. And yes, saving people is the right answer. Like I said, in the beginning I was with her, but she lost all leverage when she said she knew who he was. She lost all leverage.
That's fair. I'm not too committed to her character. I really love the Eve Invincible thing going on, but that's just me. She's not better than the world. You don't like that going on? Okay, that's fair. I get it, and I'm excited for season 2. So
it's a trope I don't like. Right? That whenever there is a cute guy and a cute girl in a room together, they have to date.
Well,
they just can't be really, really good friends who are there for each other, because everybody needs a friend. And I feel like everybody needs a friend of the opposite sex. I really do.
I agree.
I really, really do. So the fact that they always, like, obviously he ain't invincible. So girl should be the last thing on his mind right now. He should be learning how to get as invincible as his daddy. Because at this point, he's an embarrassment to me. And I just want them to, I feel like they're good for each other in a friendship type of way.
Well, they don't, I mean, there's still a chance for them not to go there, but I'm a hopeless romantic, so I think I always fall for that trope.
Yeah.
That's just
I've always found that romantic interest in films sometimes kind of detract from the story a bit. I get where they're adding an additional, hiccup into, or it's like the weakness of the superhero, that they have a love interest and they're trying to juggle both or whatever. But honestly, it's almost, I almost feel like we've had enough like romantic entanglements in these films and stuff, that we can just kind of they can exist without them. They don't have to have them.
But then they will lose an element of realness, because the romanticism that we have in our real lives every day matters, and it needs to be reflected in our films and our TV shows. Otherwise, it won't feel real. Now, if every
individual has to have romance in their lives. There are people who consciously choose not to delve into, physical or emotional relationships. And, we talk about, giving everybody a sounding board of every orientation or preference. And we forget that there are people who prefer not to have those. And we've never seen that story, really. It's,
and that's a touche. I will give you that, because people are constantly told they have to have children. And I don't think that's true. If you want to have kids, have kids. You don't want to have kids, don't have kids. And I think it's great either way.
Yeah, I would like that. To me, it would be refreshing just to see people be in close quarters, being friends, opposite sex, same sex, whatever gender you want to be. We don't always have to fall in love. Like, and to me, I still feel like Eve at a certain point don't deserve him either. I feel like neither one of these women deserve him, because in the beginning, before Amber was even a thing, like she was kind of there, but she kind of wasn't. He kind of started to like Eve, and she had a dick for a boyfriend, played by the amazing Jason Mantzoukas.
He's so perfect for that role.
I love him. Anything he does, I don't care. It's his voice at the same time. I love him, but he liked her, and then he noticed that she was with somebody, and he stepped back, and the moment she got her heart broken, she ran to him, and I don't like that. I don't like it. As Chris Evans would say, I don't like it.
But in a sense, almost his relationship with Amber helped them to stay friends at that point, and it's almost as if he was a vehicle to prevent that relationship from happening. And I was glad that they didn't, because I think they're better friends in this storyline. than they would be romantic. Now, it would probably work? Yes. But if you think about it, when we talk about the news or anything else about, oh, this prime minister, took over this, works is leading this country or doing this or doing that, and then all of a sudden, we're like, oh, but they're dating this person, and so their responsibilities are kind of sliding a little bit. We don't hear the storylines of romance of people outside of these movies, and I almost feel like the movies kind of give us this understanding that romance kind of like messes things up. It makes it difficult. It becomes the hiccup. It becomes the problem. Honestly, like we of all of our friends and family that we know of that have had relationships, sometimes we don't know about it until after they're announcing they're getting married, and in
or
that
divorced.
point, or divorced.
Yeah.
But it's like, and if anything, a relationship should make that person do better. I'm a better creator. I'm a better, everything because of what my wife brings to the table. It doesn't make me struggle with my priorities. It helps me focus on them. So
that's a good point.
And it's always the opposite of what we see. So definitely agree, Marvel. Definitely agree.
All right. So as a first episode for a TV show, did it draw you in enough to get you? And I don't think we should rate this until we rate the whole show, but obviously we've all watched through the whole first season now, and I think that speaks volumes to the first episode. But would you say it's the ending of the episode that drew you, like Lala was saying, or was it the overall episode?
For me, I'll just repeat it. It's the ending for me. Like I was kind of on the fence at first. I can't really remember. I've recorded a review to this. I'll upload it soon-ish. But it was towards the end where I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this. I'm gonna have to see where this goes." So that's what did it for me. It was the ending.
Nice.
Same for me. I started watching it a little bit after it started coming out. So I didn't have to wait too long to get the next episode. But I will say that ultimately I was chomping at the bit wanting to know what happened. So, and for me, it was easy just to, hit the next one. Cause at that point I just started binging everything.
I watched it in 3 days, but we'll just, I just watched straight through the whole season in 3 days. Pretty much between like all my breaks at work and stuff. So, Muncie says he's a hopeless romantic, but unless they're touching on manipulative relationships, I want him to drop Amber hard ASAP. Lol. I get it. I like the drama. I don't know. You gotta have a little drama. It's a teenage drama in itself because we're talking about teens in high school doing this stuff. So, we'll of course get into more complex relationships in later episodes. We'll get into some other great characters as well. But right now we're going to move into Loki. We've got 2 episodes to review, and I know you guys have both talked about them extensively. And I know Mr. Marvelette, you've done numerous episodes on your TikTok channel about Loki already, so you've got this thought through pretty well. Lala, you're caught up seasons of Loki episodes 2 and 3.
Yes, I just watched them today because actually I was watching Hancock first, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we're talking about Loki," and I have not seen the last 2 episodes. And so I quickly recorded myself because you got to get that content, and so yeah, so I watched it.
Brozaya, you're going to be good for a minute. We'll announce as soon as we start talking about episode 3. We'll go ahead and hit him in like succession. That way, if you've seen 2 but you haven't hit 3 yet, that'll give you a chance to kind of like at least get some of it, and then we'll go from there. Is that sound okay for you guys?
I
think it's great. By the way, we're going to get a script from El Taco on a zombie story and Meth Gator. These are early, back in the Mr. Fry Guy and Mr. Snippets days, or the Fry Guy and Mr. Snippets days. Taco was giving us some scripts, so hopefully we'll get those scripts to read. That'd be great. Loki episode 2 picks up right where episode 1 does, and we get to see Loki kind of become more of a hand in helping Mobius do his bidding and trying to find the other variant Loki, the bad Loki, if you will. I like the pacing of this episode, and I really do love the interaction between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. I think they play off each other very, very well because one of them doesn't take themselves seriously at all, while the other one is taking himself way too seriously, and I think that dynamic works really, really well. Girlfriend says it sets up for the Thor movie. Of course, everything in anything, if they utter a word and it's on screen in Marvel, it's setting up for something, or at least potentially. The cliffhanger here we can talk about, of course, but we'll leave that. But did you guys enjoy the second episode as much as the first?
Very much so.
It was, as a whole, I'm gonna be very honest, Loki is kind of okay for me. It's not I have said this in my review. I said that I'm assuming not maybe by episode 4-ish that they'll start doing more for me to kind of like be drawn in. The world is curious enough for me to continue, but I'm not like, I don't have any bated breath when I'm watching it. I'm not like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen next? Like I'm just very much like, you're giving me a lot of information and I appreciate it, but it's like where this information has to pay off somewhere, and I'm really waiting for that. I think that's when my mind is going to be blown. But I'm enjoying it because I enjoy Tom Hiddleston. So
I just want to say ditto.
Mr. Marvelite is going.
Go ahead, Mr. Marvelite.
The only thing I have to really say, I mean, and I get, this is a great thing about the MCU, and I think this is where we have to kind of remind people, not everything is going to be a hit for you. That's just not, it doesn't have to be, that's why if you look at every Marvel, MCU movie, there are different genres within the MCU which keep it fresh. And you can necessarily endure something like Thor Dark World, or, necessarily if you, thought that Captain Marvel, which I didn't, I thought Captain Marvel was great. But if you didn't like that, that's fine. But it does progress the storyline where it's still gonna require at least a watch. What I thought was amazing with Loki, and I like this with WandaVision specifically, and they didn't have it with Falcon Winter Soldier. It makes sense because Falcon the Winter Soldier was more of a military, governmental procedural with a lot of like building and world building with like things like Madripoor and stuff. But you have things like WandaVision and Loki where it's like every single little thing could possibly mean something, and and Loki even more, because if you look at episode 2, there's literally writing in those pages that they're looking through. And I was just honing in, trying to read what was on the pages. Even on the end credits, you're trying to read what's being said. I mean, because even episode 1, when you start seeing, and everybody's like, throwing a loop for something that was said in episode 3, which we're not going to talk about yet. But if you even stopped and looked at like the Loki file in episode 1, you would have known what was going to be happening and what was going to be referenced. And so, I mean, there are so many little things that you nitpick and you look at, and even the fact like episode 2, we're going to be going to different times with different things. And the fact that we even got a Rox cart, like, I was afraid that they weren't going to do the whole RoxCon or the Rox cart or Roxxon energy, that it was going to kind of be lost after Iron Man and after Agent Carter, but they're going to continue on. So just that was like hope for me that we're going to see some stuff happening with Roxxon, and and that's a bigger thing. And and like every little reference to something, you're just like, okay, this could be great. And then at the end, when the big like event happens at the cliffhanger, the locations and times that are being referenced in on their screens was like enough to like let me freak out and blow my lid. So
can we talk about the fact that when they go back to the Renaissance Fair, that's in 1985, and there's an entire series in the Marvel Comics called 1985. So they do that kind of stuff. Like they could literally pull from that comic series now. They can, just by showing up in that era, like that's how smart they're being. And I want to reference something you said, Tony, about how they build this out. I'm not a huge fan of the Captain America movies in the beginning, like the first two. I think they're okay, and I love them as they get further and further. And I think when we get Anthony Mackie in a Captain America, like Captain America 4 movie, I'm going to be even more excited. So I understand what you mean about different flavors for different people. My wife can't stand anything of the espionage. If it's just real people doing spy stuff in the MCU, she's like, dude, I'm done. I'm tapped out. I can't do it. She didn't like Falcon and the Winter Soldier for that reason. She, of course, loved, the dialogue and all the great stuff that came out of it. And she did not like his suit, which is hilarious because it's identical to the comic book. So I'm like, well, it was beautiful to me. So I get it, and I feel that. I'm not a huge fan of Loki so far. It's getting worse for me. Second episode was good, not as good as the first. Third episode, dragging their feet here, in my opinion. And we're not going to talk about it. Well, maybe we should because it's already 8:45. But Brosiah, be aware we may start tapping back and forth between the two episodes since they do tie together. And I just wanted to forewarn you in case so that you can tap out now. Or we'll throw up the spoiler warning, I guess. That'd be a faster way to do it. For this
Bye, Angel.
Oh, is Angel leaving too? Oh, Angel, have a great evening. Thanks for hanging out. It has been a great, great time. Same with you, Brosiah. Muting. Oh, that's even better. We like it. That way you're here, but not here.
Yeah.
I loved the reveal. I thought the reveal of Sylvie was fantastic. But then I felt like they didn't really do anything in the third episode with them or with her. And I understand it's character development. We're trying to understand both Lokis further. But I felt like there was just no reason for it. I wasn't hooked. I don't know. I'm feeling like Lala felt the same way about episode 3, but that's kind of what she was alluding to.
Well, for me, it's a lot of talking. For me, this Loki isn't of course he's not going to be the same. Like, this is 2012's Loki, but he still doesn't. There's something very domesticated about him that I don't particularly care for. And I understand you need this because you need that longevity. I know he's playing like a long game because he essentially like explained that in the third one. He's like in the second and the third one, he's like playing on like a long game. And I get that. It's just something that just feels off. And like I said, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of information, and not a lot of doing. And I'm just kind of like, I know because I've been with the MCU from the beginning, I know that they're building towards something. I just wish they would hurry up just a little bit more. But I liked the dynamic between the two Lokis. Between Loki and Sylvie, because she doesn't like to be called Loki. I like the dynamic between them. I like their chemistry in a sense. So the third episode I kind of enjoyed because they had their moments talking, but then again, it was very slapsticky, the third one for me. The fact that he was getting his butt whooped that much to me was just a shocker for me. It was just like Loki. I'm like, Loki knows how to fight. Loki knows how to, like, does he need daggers to fight? Like, I was just very confused.
You and Bats are attuned. She said exactly the same thing. She's like, doesn't he know how to use magic and kick ass? He's not in the TVA right now. Why isn't he using his magic?
Why is he not? Like, it was just very confusing to me. But there were elements that I enjoyed. Like, I enjoyed the fact that he doesn't know how to enchant people, right? That this might be his way, his door into learning how to mentally enchant people to do things that he wants to do. Like, this can add to his magic. I liked when he started talking about his mother because I love Frigga. She's great. And I would like a Frigga film if that's just me. But because I think she's way more interesting than what they were giving us in all the films. I like that they had to learn how to trust each other. I like that she called him out like, yo, listen, I'm hedonistic too. But bro, we got a mission. So you gotta keep yourself in check. Like, nobody has talked to Loki like this. So to hear it from himself in a way, maybe it'll bring him to the Loki that we remember and maybe even better. But I'm at this moment, episode 3, we're 3 episodes in. I'm like, I like Tom Hiddleston, so I guess I'll keep going. But like I said, maybe 4th, 5th episode, because this series only has 6 episodes.
Yep.
And we're halfway in, and I'm still kind of like, The only thing from 3 that I would say really got me, that really I was going to stay anyway, but because of Tom Hiddleston, but I'm very curious now, is that I'm curious about how everybody is going to act when they realize that they're all variants, that they have been lied to since the dawn of time, essentially. How is Mobius going to feel once he finds out that he was a person on Earth that had a life?
Could have been another world, but yeah.
Or, another Earth or another galaxy or wherever he was a person. Because his philosophy with Loki about being like, well, we're created here, so this is what I do. The fact that that's all false, I'm curious on how that's going to change him. So, but yeah.
Tony, you seem like you've got something you want to say.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So first of all, we talked about episode 2, and I really feel like the whole big thing for him is Loki is trying to get an understanding. Now he pushed with Mobius, trying to find some way to get in the have an audience with the Timekeepers. Loki's endgame, I think, is very much the same as Sylvie's, and I think he realizes that. I think he wants to get to the Timekeepers to either kill them or manipulate them and control them. We find that Loki has abilities that he has not used through this, and I know there. I put out there the possibility that he has taken the time stones and he's gone. There's a couple things that after I've sat and I've really thought about this show and knowing about Loki. Loki's informed. He knows what he's doing and he knows where he's going, and he does his research. He spent a lot of time in the TVA reading all those files that they allowed him to read, and he was slaving over all of the information regarding the events of the extinction level events, and so he was familiar with them. The fact the first kind of tell for me in episode 3 was when they ended up on that planet and she's freaking out because it was the worst destructive instance. Loki knew that. He knew that what was going on to that planet. I don't think anything that happened in episode 3 was out of Loki's control. I believe that one of two things happened. A, we saw him be able to control the memories of Valkyrie in Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard to consider that maybe he did to Sylvie what Sylvie has been doing to other people because he's trying to gain her trust, get information, and find out what he needs? I almost don't even think now, because I was really considering this, that they ever left Roxcart. I think that Loki may still have Sylvie there. And that whole instance where he follows Sylvie back to the TVA and everything else, that is mad, wonderful. That's awesome. I'm so glad when you're supporting, like, even if you don't even know what we're talking about. But I think that Loki has been manipulating this whole situation, and we're going to find out that, first of all, how did Sylvie fall asleep? Sylvie wasn't going to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden she wakes up and she's, startled to him singing with everyone. And literally the song that he was singing, I think somebody had translated the song, and it was an old, like, Norse song about, I think it was either time or something else. There's a meaning behind it. It escapes me at the moment. But, like, every single little thing that Loki's done throughout the movie, I mean, the TemPad is broken. They get kicked off of the train. They change plans and decide that they're going to go back to get off the planet with the ship.
Why would he why would he blow their cover and get drunk?
For the purpose of getting them off that train, because I think it's all an illusion anyway. And the whole reason is he's trying to break Sylvie's resolve, to make her convinced that they're not getting off the planet, to find out what her end game is, because then he can control the situation and do what he wants. Because she's not going to tell him anything unless she thinks she's going to die anyway.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great theory. If by episode 4 we see that come to fruition, I would love that. Like, I would love that. But up until this point, like, your theory makes episode 3 sound way better than what I perceive it to be from my first glance and looking at it, because I always know that like Loki plays chess. You know what I mean? He plays chess, other people play checkers, and I understand that. So it would make sense that, because throughout the episode, I was like, so he can't enchant people. Now I know that we saw him do that to. He didn't really enchant her, but he revealed a memory deep within her. So when she brought up not really remembering her mom, I'm like, well, that's something that Loki can do for her. Like he can bring that memory forth. I don't know how close unlocking a memory and enchantment is, but also he asked her, like, well, how do you do it? Right? And she pretty much tells him Loki doesn't really need much instruction, right? The way that I'm assuming the way that his mother has taught him, has made it so that he understands things maybe quicker and a little bit better than most people. Like when he was sitting down with Mobius and they would ask him a question and he would just say, like, he'll clean it up like very clearly and tell him what it is. He's like, well, that's an oversimplification. Like, no, like he gets right to the meat of it. So your theory actually stands very tall for me and who Loki is and how he moves and what he does. So if that happens, I'm here for it all. I think he will be, in fact, if it works, he will be, in fact, the superior Loki, essentially.
Loki Prime.
But I'm at this point, I'm kind of like, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of doing. But like I said, I'm waiting for maybe episode 4 or 5 will be like the episode, because for me, WandaVision episode 4 was the episode that from there on
you were sucked in.
You lost your mind. You were like, wait a second, all these things, like all the chips started falling into place. So now I'm waiting for the episode where all the chips fall into place for Loki, because for me, I'm gonna start calling it Captain America and the Winter Soldier. First episode, I was ready because I like these characters. I was ready to see where they go, and this just had, and Captain America and Winter Soldier just had a different feel to it. And because Loki is magic, there's not a lot of magic in this show, and I was kind of disappointed.
Well, think of it this way: when you look at the Disney Plus shows that we've gotten so far, Loki is more in line with WandaVision. WandaVision, we got 3 episodes that didn't make effective sense, except for it was a lot of like Easter eggs and it was hinting at something, but we didn't know what it was. It was just weird enough that we were just kind of chomping at the bit. And then like the House of M wine and the Grim Reaper's helmet in the opening of episode 2. And then what happened in episode 3? You had episode 3 where, if you think about it, I almost feel like episode 3 of WandaVision was probably the weaker of the episodes. A lot was happening very quickly. It was almost too zany to be, really. It was so laughable. It was almost like the show she was losing her ability. Basically, she was losing control. She couldn't control the crane. She couldn't, stop her contractions from causing events. Vision almost exactly found out what was going on, and then pop, we have the twins, and we find out that Monica Rambeau, Geraldine was, really was Sword, and she gets thrown out. And it wasn't until episode 4 that we saw the other side of what was happening. And for a lot of people who are excited for episode 3 and what's going to happen this week on Wednesday, I just warn you right now, if they're following the same recipe, episode 4, and I think even Tom Hiddleston said 4 and 5 kind of throw everything upside down, which means we're probably not going to pick up from the end of episode 3 in episode 4. We're going to see what's happening in the TVA, and we're going to see the other side of what's happening with all of those charges that went off in the timeline.
Let's see. Let's hope.
So, and I think what we're going to get at the end of episode 4 is probably a reveal of, we'll either see the timekeepers, we're going to see who Renslayer is really reporting to or working with, or the fabric of the TVA is going to start to collapse. And then episode 5 will probably get where it kind of blends back together with it continuing on with, what's going on with Sylvie and Loki. That's just my opinion. Because it seems like they're following that recipe from WandaVision, because they're both going in the same direction toward Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
So.
Right. But that's the difference. The difference for me between WandaVision and Loki is the fact that even though those first 3 episodes of WandaVision was like, what is this? It was still intriguing intriguing enough to make you like be like, this is weird enough for me to want to hang on to this branch to see what happens. For me, that's not happening with Loki. Like that to me, that's the big difference. So that's why I'm hoping that the 4th episode, even if it's like a complete flip, even if it doesn't like pick up where the 3rd one left off, which I liked how the 3rd one actually ended.
Mm-hmm.
I need more. And it doesn't need to be like Michael Bay explosions because that's too much. But it needs to be like, I don't know, something needs to pull me, and I'm not feeling pulled. I'm usually pulled.
Can we just compliment on how wonderful that one shot was at the end? That was fantastic.
Yeah. About the with the ship.
Yeah, the whole them fighting and everything, all that was in one take, and it was beautiful.
It was.
It was beautiful.
I do want to make mention of one more thing, and then we do need to call the show good for the evening. But I thought it was very interesting as a. Can we talk about just how clueless Matt is? We can. I mean, if you really want to. Matt is clueless. He doesn't watch pop culture, so he comes just to support us, which makes him very awesome.
You live life.
He's seen Star Wars.
Okay, that's great.
His dad made him. Not really made him. His dad loves it, so he watched it with his dad. So I think it's interesting as a comic book fan that Sylvie has a look, feel, and powers much like Enchantress, who is, of course, a Loki character. And I think it's interesting that we may not ever get an Enchantress in MCU, but we might get this Sylvie Loki as our version of Enchantress. She may stick around, and I think that would be very interesting if she did, because then we would finally get what I expected to get movies ago with Enchantress. But that's just me.
Can I just point out one thing? Her crown was missing a horn, like a thing.
That's comic book accurate.
And I was curious to see to know like how that happened, because that seems very durable because she smacked somebody in the face with it. She used it very like a la Wonder Woman. So I was curious, like that break. I was just like, it was just a part of her aesthetic that I was just like,
it's pretty simple.
She
fought Wolverine in another timeline, and he took that off. It'd be pretty easy for him to take that right off.
You know what, Smitty? You're the greatest. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
We would never see him, and we don't need to. That's what I like about the Loki series is it has opened up. Basically, we can retcon whatever we want now. They basically just said we just threw a timeline or a bomb into our own timeline, which means we can do whatever we want, and you guys can't bitch about it. I think that's genius for a company who is kind of shoehorning themselves or pigeonholing themselves into a very particular place. So,
Smitty, just so you know, there are. I just looked up Enchantress Loki. There are stories on Deadline, Screen Rant, everywhere that the actress Sophia DiMartino talks about whether or not she's the Enchantress. So I don't know if you want to go Google that and read those for yourself to see, because she brings it up. Somebody brings it up. She talks about it. So
interesting. So somebody else was smart enough to put that together. I knew a lot of nerds would be smart enough to put that together, but yeah. I'm not quite sure what's happening, Mr. Marvelite, but your camera has slowly been turning pink.
I was going to say that. I feel like I'm turning negative, like I'm turning into Mr. Negative.
Nothing has changed, and it's slowly faded away.
I can see myself perfectly fine on my viewer, but for whatever reason on the thing, I'm just like, I'm just turning into powerful.
It looks like you're turning into you're getting a superpower or something. I don't know. Or
well, I can fix that real quick. I can just do this.
That made things weirder, and it looks like you have no teeth now. I don't understand.
Oh my word!
Yeah. Okay, that's a little. Wait, that's a little better. It's weird because me and Black Mirror Marvel look great. I mean, we do look great, but No, that's weird. Okay, well, we'll worry about that next week.
I could drop out and come back in and see if it works.
No, we're at the end of the show. It's not a big deal. I'm glad you got to watch that with your dad, Matt.
Mr. Marvelite is coming live from Chernobyl. That's all it is.
That's what it is. Or live from some bombed timeline in Loki.
Yeah.
You kind of have that feeling. There you go. Doctor Strange is coming in at the end of Marvelite's episode, and he's taking over. That's what's happening. Well, he did not actually handcuff you. You are crapping me. I don't believe that. Come on, Matt. I don't. No way. Do you guys believe that he really got handcuffed to a couch to watch Star Wars? I don't buy it.
I personally think that's great parenting.
That's true.
But maybe I'm wrong.
Are you going to show us your quick stand that you built so we can have everybody see that?
Yeah. I had my 3D printing escapades turned into the Eye of Agamotto stand, so I've got my replica on there, which I'm very happy about.
Sorry, my eyes are really blurry. And that's very awesome. I'm glad you built that. Apparently he didn't handcuff him, but I read it as did.
Somehow the Eye of Agamotto actually fixed my camera problem.
Oh, it did fix your camera problem.
I just put it
that's
back in regular
creepy
time.
because we were just talking about Doctor Strange. I love it. Okay, you guys, I hope you guys have a great evening. I don't know if anybody's on to raid. I could check real quick. It could be a nice thing to do. I think I have sweated out every bit of water I've ever drank in my entire life at this point. That's pretty gross, but still true. Who is on?
Let's do this. I'm going to search something here.
Let's raid the Streamin' Demon. He's one of the guys I follow on TikTok. He's a cool guy. Does horror movie or horror movie reviews. And such.
Horror movie
movies.
That was great.
Hey, good night, Matt. I'll catch you tomorrow, man.
Night, Matt.
Night, Matt. Oh, this requires a tea.
Hey,
and good night, Muncie.
Good night, Muncie.
All right, guys.
All right.
You guys have a wonderful night.
All right, get some rest, Nitty.
I will.
Have a great.
Bye.
Bye.